Hare Krishna Prabhu ji, Dandat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu ji, Dandat Pranam.
Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna dear devotees, welcome all of you for the morning program Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Haridev Krishna Prabhu and he will enlighten us on Srimad Bhagavatam 5th canto 13th chapter and the text 5. Over to you Prabhu ji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu ji. I'll be able to share the screen, isn't it, Prabhu ji? Yes, thank you. Yes. Hare Krishna. So we welcome all of you. We'll recite prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityaram Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So seek the blessings of all the devotees. So we'll be reading from 5th canto, 13th chapter, 5th shloka. The chapter, 13th chapter is entitled as Further Talks Between King Rahugana and Jada Bharat. Just a minute. we will recite this shloka. Adrishya jhili swanakarnashula ulukavagbir व्यतितान्तरात्मा अपुण्यवृक्षान् श्रयते क्षुधार्दितो मरीचितोयानि अभिधावति क्वचित् अदृश्यझीली स्वनकर्णशूल उलूकवाग्भिर्व्यतितान्तरात्मा अपुण्यवृक्षान् श्रयते क्षुधार्दितो मरीचितोयानि अभिधावति क्वचित् अदृश्यझीली स्वनकर्णशूल व्यतितान्तरात्मा अपुण्यवृक्षान् श्रयते क्षुधार्तितो मरीचितो तोयानि अभिधावति क्वचित्. Word to word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Adrishya, invisible. Jhili, of crickets or a kind of bee. Swana, by the sounds. Karnashula, whose ears are disturbed. Uluka, of the owls. Vagbihi, by sound vibration. Vyatita, very disturbed. Antha Atma, whose mind and heart. Apunya Vrikshan, impious trees that have no fruits or flowers. Shrayate, he takes shelter of. Kshuda, from hunger. Arditaha, suffering. Marichitoyani, the waters of the mirage in the desert. Abhidavati, he runs after. Kvachit, sometimes. Translation. Wandering in the forest of the material world, the conditioned soul sometimes hears an invisible cricket making harsh sounds, and his ears become very much aggrieved. Sometimes his heart is pained by the sound of owls, which are just like the harsh words of his enemies. Sometimes he takes shelter of a tree that has no fruits or flowers. He approaches such a tree due to his strong appetite, and thus he suffers. He would like to acquire water, but he is simply illusioned by a mirage, and he runs after it. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that the Bhagavata philosophy is meant for people who are completely free from envy. Paramo nirmatsaranam. The material world is full of envious people. Even within one's inner circle, there is much backbiting, and this is compared to the sound vibration of a cricket in the forest. One cannot see the cricket, but one hears its sound and thus becomes aggrieved. When one takes to Krishna consciousness, one always hears unpalatable words from relatives. This is the nature of the world. One cannot avoid mental distress due to backbiting of envious people. Being very much aggrieved, sometimes one goes to a sinful person for help, but he has no means to help because he has no intelligence. Thus, the living entity is disappointed. This is like running after a mirage in the desert in an effort to find water. Such activities do not produce any tangible results due to being directed by the illusory energy. A conditioned soul suffers in so many ways. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्यते नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश धारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरवत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So I would like to seek the blessings of all before we begin discussing on this shloka. So here the section is Jada Bharat is trying preaching to Rahugana, King Rahugana, uh, saying how one should. He's giving the example of how a merchant enters into a forest, thinking, I will go deep into the jungles and get some valuable products which are available free of cost for me in the forest. And then I will come here to the cities and then sell and make big profits. But in the due course of time, as he enters the forest, he encounters so many difficulties. That analogy was given by Jada Bharat to Maharaj Rahugana, saying how this forest is the forest of material world or material enjoyment, and a living entity is like the merchant who thinks, let me also go into this material world deep, deep, and get some enjoyment, just like getting some profit. He wanders deep and deep into the material world, thinking that I can very easily extract enjoyment. But his whole journey in the forest is filled with constant troubles. And so Maharaj Rahugana is being woken up here. How long will you try to go into the forest and deeper and hope you will get happiness? Eventually, you will only get pain and suffering. So, in this shloka, mm, several analogies are given. Uh, of course, Srila Prabhupada very mercifully elaborates in the purports in this chapter only. But you will see, even in the next chapter, the same things are repeated in the 14th chapter again. Why? Because here, in the conversation, there is no much elaboration given by Jada Bharat. Jada Bharat gives analogies, and Maharaj Rahugana exactly understands what each of these analogies are meant to convey. So, at the end, Maharaj Rahugana thanks Jadabharat for waking him up further like that. But King Parikshit, who's hearing this, asks Shukadev Goswami, of course, he's asking is more like asking for the benefit of all less intelligent conditioned souls like that, like us. Even Parikshit uh, asks Shukadev Goswami in the next chapter, can you elaborate each of these analogies? Because it seems very difficult for anybody to just understand what each one is meant to convey like that. So there you will again see in the next chapter elaboration of this. So Prabhupada brings some points from the commentaries of previous acharyas as well as from the next chapter and gives few examples here. So here, what is it given here? Adrishya jihli swana karna shula. The first line. Adrishya, invisible. Jhili. Jhili means crickets or a kind of bee by the sounds, whose ears are disturbed. So it is said in uh, this world is characterized by constant envy, and when there is envy, there will be obviously fault finding, criticism, blasphemy, etc. Now, what are the difference between fault finding, criticism, blasphemy? Fault finding. Let us say we have some shortcomings and somebody is pointing that out. That is called fault finding. And criticism, we may have a very small drawback, but that drawback is uh, mm, unnecessarily amplified. Uh, just like say the saying goes, converting a mole into a mountain. That is called criticism. And what is blasphemy? Blasphemy means there is no fault at all, but just because of our deep-rooted envy, we want to bring down that person, and therefore we are trying to uh, uh, spread false propaganda, false rumors about that person. So that is blasphemy. Just like Ramachandra Puri, how he was blaspheming Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He saw some ants crawling and then he concluded, oh, this sannyasi, he is not a sannyasi, he is a bogi. He is hiding and taking sweets daily. That is why so many ants are crawling in his room, like that. So that is blasphemy. So, in this first line, it is said the crickets make sound. It is said crickets generally make sound in the wall, uh, and it give the sounds are invisible. We hear the sound, but we don't know from where it is coming. And similarly, even if we try to break the wall open, we will not be able to find where it is coming. So that is the nature of this world. The relatives, friends, even enemies, all of them, what is their nature? Their nature is invisibly, just like crickets, how they make sounds. They spread false allegations, rumors, or speak behind the back in a wrong way. So, one of Prabhupada's disciples said, how to get rid of this blasphemic nature, because all of us have envy within our heart, and sometimes even if there is a fault, uh, we may, instead of wanting to help that person, speak behind the back because we derive pleasure in putting that person down. So how to get rid of that? Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, he said, better to speak to that Vaishnava about what is going on in your heart, right? Better to speak to that Vaishnava rather than speaking about that Vaishnava. So you can directly go and talk to him. Prabhuji, I'm seeing that that day this happened. I didn't feel right. You did the right thing, like that. And if we feel we are not in a position to, and we are uh, to correct or say that thing, then we could just speak it to one person who is the superior of that person, or who can guide that person and not spread faults. Even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, even in the 11th cant also it comes, the honeybee and the fly. So we can learn from the honeybee and the fly. What is the honeybee mentality? Honeybee mentality means even in a filthy place, if there is only garbage all around, but there is one flower that has nectar, then the honeybee sits in the place where nectar is there. And what is the fly mentality? Even if the garden is filled with fragrant flowers, if there is stool of an animal, the fly will prefer to sit on the stool. In the same way, a devotee should be like a honeybee. He should always try to take the good qualities of people and not unnecessarily speak about the negatives. Maybe if you want to correct or benefit that person, either speak directly or speak to the superior one person, so that in a mood of wanting to help him, not in a mood of trying to pull that person down. So that is a devotee thing. But outside world is not like that. Outside world, they speak, and suddenly we hear so many things. Even Lord Krishna had to hear the rumors that Krishna has killed Satrajit's brother Prasena. Why? Because Satrajit and Prasena refused to give the Shamantaka money. So that was the rumor that got spread, even about Lord Krishna. So the nature of this world is that outside envious people. We ask who propagated this rumor. Nobody will say. That is why it is called invisible. You please come in front of me. Tell me who started this rumor. I will prove to you I am not wrong. I will explain. I will clarify. Then nobody comes. But once we go aside, again the sounds start coming. So that way, the ears of the conditioned soul are very disturbed. So he is going to the forest, working hard, trying to earn some profit. But in course of doing that, all are talking wrong things about that person. So that is the first line, how uh, rumor mongering and blasphemy and talking behind the back, that disturbs the ears of the person, but still he's determined to remain in the forest only, although there are no pleasing atmosphere, because he's thinking that the valuable commodities that I'm eventually going to get is going to keep me happy. And in the second line, it is said, Uluka Vagbir Vyatitantaratma. So, mm, envious people. They are, his heart is pained by the sound of owls, and the sound of owls are like harsh words of the enemies. And it is also said the sound of owls is also like the harsh speech of some government official or the superiors who minimize the work done by the subordinate, or who try to extract all the valuable earnings by bribing, asking for bribes or tax, etc., like that. And then, because he's pained in such a case, let us say somebody bribes and takes away all the hard-earned money, or does not give good promotion, the boss will be all right, and only when the time of appraisal comes, the boss will start saying, this you could have done better, that you could have done better, harsh words. So in that way, he's working hard and not getting the profits, but only getting harsh words. So then what the living entity thinks? He thinks, better let me take shelter of some other person. And he goes to some other rich person, some other influential person, like a dog searching for different masters to take care of him, like that. So he goes there, and unfortunately, he thinks this tree is very huge and it's very sturdy, so it can give shelter. But the problem is that tree generally has no fruits or flowers. This example, taking shelter of a tree with no fruits or flowers, is compared to taking shelter of a wealthy man who has no heart to help the person. So there are two examples. One is, we think he's great, but when we go closer, we understand he himself is helpless and he cannot help. That is one category of people in the world. And second is, we know that he is influential, he can do everything, but he doesn't have the heart, because in this world, everyone wants only their enjoyment. They don't want to help others. So when he goes, tries to take shelter of the tree, rather than giving shelter, because the tree has no fruits, they try to sometimes even exploit them. Even in Srila Prabhupada's ever well-wisher video, uh, Srinathji Prabhu, who passed away recently, he said how when Srila Prabhupada came to India, Srinathji Prabhu, he was a businessman, and he says, what is the nature of businessman in this world? I was trying to see what is Srila Prabhupada's weakness, so that I can use that to my advantage and exploit him, like that. Same way, a wealthy person may be wealthy, but when we go searching for some help, they will try to use our situation for their own benefit. Sometimes some innocent people approach a very rich person saying, sir, I'm in financial difficulty. Can you help me out with some urgent money? I have some need. They will give, but then they will put such a big interest that paying that interest, this person gets fully entangled in this one. Or sometimes he's going through some litigation or a court case, etc. He thinks this person is an influential person. And he tells his whole story to them, thinking that I may get some help. But then they understand, oh, okay, I understood this person is I thought this person was very smart, but he has got cheated so easily. That means in future I can also cheat him, because I know he doesn't have enough knowledge about law, how to escape law, how to entangle people, like that. So this is the kind of people. Therefore, he takes shelter, and rather than getting shelter, he only suffers. And why is he suffering? Because of his strong appetite for sense enjoyment. Even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives two, three examples. One, sometimes a person is very, very hungry and feeling stomach pain. So he clings on to a cold pillar, because when you cling on to a cold pillar, stomach pain reduces. But how long can you cling on? Eventually, you'll have to give up and go search food. And when you're giving up your hand and searching for food, at that time, there may be temporary stomach pain. But once you eat food, you are normal. But people do not want. They want continuous enjoyment and absence of suffering. And in that hope, they cling on to the cold pillar. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, Maya is not clinging on to us, but we are like clinging on to Maya, just like the cold pillar we are clinging on to. When we give up Maya, yes, initially we may feel, oh, material enjoyment also I lost. Neither am I getting spiritual taste. But eventually, once you eat the food, and that means once Krishna consciousness goes into the heart becomes satisfied, and then the person feels, oh, this is what I was looking for. That is one example. Another example Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives is of trying to row the boat, but with the anchor still put in the sea. It will not on the shore. The boat will not move at all, like that. So same way, um, due to our strong appetite, we are keeping the anchor in this material world and suffering. And we try to acquire water, but we are simply illusioned by mirage, and we run after it. Even Prahalad Maharaj quotes a similar shloka in the prayers of Prahalad. He says, Putra Shisha Shruti Sukha Mrigatrish Nirupa Vedam Kalevaram Ashesha Rujan Viroha Nirvidyate Natujano Tadapi Tividwan Kamanalam Madulavai Kshamayandurapai. And what is the meaning there? Prahlad also says, Kutra Shisha Shruti Sukha. In this world, there is lot of propaganda for happiness, but all the happiness that is promised in this world is only Shruti Sukha. Shruti Sukha means only for hearing it looks happy. Why? Because it is exactly like a mirage in the desert. When one actually tries to get it, one does not get it at all. I often give this example to our students, because we heard the same example during our student life when seniors came to preach to us. So we are promised that 10th standard you study well, then your whole life is peaceful. Then 12th standard you study well, then your whole life is peaceful. Engineering or medicine you do and get a good job, then your whole life is peaceful. Then once you get a good job, now you've got a good job, please work hard throughout so that you don't lose that good job. So it is only that happiness is there in the ears to hear, but actually it is like a mirage in the desert, like that. So this is what it is said. Prabhupada in the purport is also saying this material world means it is all filled with envious, but Bhagavatam is for Nirmatsaranam Satam. So if we want to also gain Krishna's grace, we should try to give up envy. And this material world is filled with envious people. And within one's inner circle itself, there is so much backbiting. Okay. And not outside. Outside, at least it's better. Why? Because outside they directly talk at the face. Enemy means they tell, I don't like you. You are fit for nothing, like that. So, but inner circle when we are there, they are good. But when we are not there, they speak bad, like that. So he becomes aggrieved. And he hears unpalatable words from relatives, like that. So that way he becomes disappointed. And so I was also hearing one very beautiful lecture on the same sloka given by His Grace Shikshashtakam Prabhu. I have made small summary notes. I thought we can quickly go through because there is not much of time. So even in the Mahabharata, there is a similar analogy of how a man enters a forest or the material world to get some wood. But he eventually he goes deeper in the forest, it gets dark, and then lot of deadly beasts start chasing him. And what are these beasts? They are like the diseases that start chasing him. And suddenly an ugly old woman starts trying to attack him in the front. That is like the old age. And then he's thinking, my God, I've got into a trouble. Let me come out. And he's trying to escape from the forest. But the wall of the forest is guarded by a five-headed snake. And what is this five-headed snake? This five-headed snake is the body made of Pancha Mahabhutas. And we are covered by this, and we are thinking this satisfying them will keep us happy. So because we don't want to come out of this Pancha Mahabhut, we are bound in this. And then finally, because the beasts are chasing him, he tries to take shelter and he sees one dry well. He thinks, let me jump into it and at least be saved from the beast. And the dry well is sense gratification. Why is it called sense gratification? Because a well is supposed to quench the thirst, but a dry well simply produces pain, because if you jump, you won't get into cooling waters where your bodily comfort is also seen and thirst is quenched. Rather, a dry well means we only get our head broken and die. Same way, sense gratification, lot of promise is given, it will make us happy, but actually it gives us more misery. And then when he's jumping into the well, he sees behind there is a big snake python opening its mouth. And then that python is like the snake of death. Kala Sarpa is wanting to devour. Then he thinks, oh, I cannot jump into the well. And fortunately, he sees one small twig or vine in the well, which is going almost like a diameter, and he holds on to that. And that the wine is like the senses. He's somehow trying to use his senses to hold on to this world. And then he sees, okay, better can I climb upwards. And up, he sees there is a six-faced elephant. And the six-faced elephant is like the seasons which go on changing. And there are constantly bees and thorns that are piercing him all around, which are like the Adhyatmik, Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik Klesh, constantly troubling him. In spite of all these problems, and he's holding on to this wine, he's thinking, now I'm peaceful. And then suddenly he sees there is one white rat and black rat, and both those rats are starting to eat the ends of the twigs. So then he's tensed again, because eventually the twig will fall and he will die into the serpent. That white rat and black rat represents the day and night. The senses, he's thinking, I'll hold on to my power of senses and somehow counteract this world. But the daytime and nighttime is reducing the power of the senses, and eventually that person has to die. He can't even forget about enjoyment. He can't even counteract the miseries of this world. That is the nature of this world. In spite of all this suffering, suddenly he sees within that well there is some small beehive from which droplets of honey is falling, and he has to move a little to catch that honey. So holding on, in spite of all thorns brushing him when he moves aside, just for that one drop of honey, he's ready to take all this troublesome situation. So that is the example given in the Mahabharata. And when a person from above throws a rope and says, I will help you, he says, I'm not interested, because although everything is miserable, I'm still getting drops of honey once in a while at least. If I come out, I will lose this. So that is how the Maya Shakti traps the living entity. And then in that class, it was also said how pure devotees, because their heart is driven by compassion to help others, Krishna gives them the right intelligence on how to preach so that it will be suitable to the audience. And one of the qualities of a Vaishnava is also that he is expert. So we see here Jada Bharat also, his preaching technique was so very much apt. Why? Because Maharaj Rahugana was going to the Kapila ashram and going through the forest. So he was very much looking at the environment of the forest, etc. And Jada Bharat, when he spoke the same analogy of the forest, it immediately touched the heart of Maharaj Rahugana. So that is the expertise of a preacher, and we see so many other examples. Great devotees, they preach using the Shaka Chandra Nyaya. That means a child may be unable to see the moon, but child may be able to see the branches. So first the guru or the father shows the branch. Beta, look at the branches. And then when he focuses on the branch, then he says, now between those two branches, there is a small gap, right? You see there, and that is where you'll see the moon. Like that same way, the devotees, they are not in a mood of impressing or wanting to show their scholarly ability, but their heart is that somehow I uh, connect to him so that he becomes receptive to my hearing, so that eventually I can give him Srila Prabhupada's and Krishna's mercy, like that. So that is the heart of a devotee. Narada Muni also, when he was preaching to the sons of Daksha, the first uh, 10,000 or 1,000 sons, Haryashvas, he gave a riddle, and because they were very intelligent, Narada understood a simple riddle is enough for them to get the knowledge, and instead of doing tapasya and entering into household, they can give up the household and take up sannyas, like that. So Narada gives this analogy of how there is a kingdom with only one man, and that kingdom is the entire creation, and there is only one man. Who is that? The only Purusha or the enjoyer, which is Krishna. But we leave that place, and then we come to a place, a different place, and in that place there is a hole where when one goes, no one comes out. And what is that hole? That hole can refer to two things. One is, if one goes into sinful life, generally very tough to come out. Even Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 16th chapter, that demoniac people again they go into hellish life, like that. So that is one type of hole. Another type of hole is the spiritual world, because once we go back there, we never come back, like that. And this man, the living entity, uh, he somehow gets attached to an unchaste girl, and then he gets married. And this unchaste girl is like the intelligence. And when he gets married to the corrupted intelligence, then uh, he has to take the body made of 5 elements, etc., like that. And finally, so he gives that analogy, and with that analogy, immediately the Haryashvas are woken up. But for Mrigari, what was Narada Muni's preaching technique? He did not use the same technique, because Mrigari was he was not a very scholarly or intelligent person. He was a cruel-hearted hunter. So for Mrigari, he had to wake him up by showing him what suffering he was to get in the hell, like that. That way. And what about the king Prachini Barhishat? Narada Muni understood king means king will have big ego. I cannot directly say you are in Maya. So he uses an allegorical or fictitious story and of Puranjan. And then in the end, uh, Prachini Barhi himself understands that Puranjan is not anybody. It is me only. How I'm being cheated by Maya, like that. So that is how Narada tries to. And when it came to Vedavyas, how did Narada preach to Vedavyas? Vedavyas was so knowledgeable. So Narada could not give him anything in that manner, analogy or anything, because everything he knew. So then Narada gave his own practical life on saying how uh, he himself was a Suta Putra. Then by serving Bhakti Vedantas, rendering Bhakti, that's how one became blissful. And then Vyasadeva got the inspiration to write the Srimad Bhagavatam. So each class of people, Narada dealt differently. And for Chitraketu, because he was attached to his son, he brought back that same son to life and asked him to preach, like that. So you will see that even in Krishna, he also is an expert preacher. Krishna is giving analogy of matra sparshastu kaunteya, tolerate like summer and winter, like that. So something which one can relate to. Prabhupada, needless to say, so many examples. Whatever Prabhuji had mentioned, I have noted down here. It gives us a greed to hear more and more of Prabhupada lectures and conversations. So once Prabhupada was giving a lecture in 26 Second Avenue, and the cars were continuously disturbing, creating a lot of noise. So all devotees' attention was going towards the cars. So Prabhupada used that car only as an example. He said, the cars are coming, and after some time they disappear our vision, but they continue to exist. In the same way, Krishna's avatar, when Krishna comes in this world as an incarnation, not that before he was not there, car was there before also. For some time it comes into our presence and it continues to exist, but it's not in our presence. Same way Krishna is our incarnations or appearance and disappearance. Prabhupada related it to that. And Prabhupada named deities after places like London Ishwar, Paris Ishwar, etc. like that. And even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is a saying, Ena Kena Prakarena Mana Krishna Niveshayet. Somehow or another, we should try to give our hearts or mind to Krishna and try to make others' minds also attached to doing service to Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, on one hand, I am completely not attaching myself to the body. Naham Vipro, Nachanarapatir, Napi Vaishyas, Na Shudro, like that. I am none of these. I am simply Gopir, Bharatur, Padakamalayur, Das Dasanudas. But same Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in order to give us the value of how great fortune is given to all the Bharat Bhumi Vasis, Mahaprabhu is saying, Bharata Bhumi te hoila, Manusya Janmayar, Janma Sartak Kari, Karo Parak Upakar. Certainly, it is not that Mahaprabhu was in bodily consciousness or wanted us to be in bodily consciousness. So, whatever it takes to inspire one closer to Krishna, to that place, Mahaprabhu would preach accordingly, like that. Same way, Prabhupada, when he went to America, Srila Prabhupada would say, what is the use of you being Americans if you can't do something very big? And when Prabhupada would come to India, Prabhupada would say, India should be like the lighthouse guiding the whole world. Mahaprabhu also said the same thing like that. So it was not manipulative. It was only so that whatever our sense of patriotism or bodily identification that we are in, using that to eventually come closer to Krishna. That is the expertise of a preacher that way. And in the same lecture, Prabhupada said also that a dog, why does it fight? Because it thinks, I belong to this road is mine, nobody else should come. Same way people here are fighting. I am American, you're Indian. So this kind of mentality is doggish mentality, like that. So this is one example of Prabhupada. Then two, three more I wanted to read out here. One other example was once Prabhupada was giving lecture and mother was having child in her lap and still the child was crying. So that time Prabhupada immediately connected. See, although the child is in the most sheltered position, which is the mother, still the mother cannot save the child. And that's how Prahlad Maharaj also prays that Balasya Neha Sharanam Kutarao Narsimha. Even a child cannot be protected by father. Expert physician cannot protect a dying patient, or a drowning man cannot be protected by a strong boat. Only Lord's mercy can protect everyone. So Prabhupada, in order to convey that point, immediately took that to preach. Another lecture, when Prabhupada was seeing child crying, Prabhupada would also say, one should cry for Krishna like this helpless child. And in one more place, Prabhupada was glorifying Krishna. How Krishna has given that Shakti to the child so that the child can immediately get the attention of the mother because the child is helpless, and Krishna has given that Shakti of loud cry so that mother, wherever it is, wherever she is, she'll immediately be able to come and help, like that. And Prabhupada would recently, Radhesham Prabhu was mentioning also the rally driver example. Prabhupada was speaking for almost an hour about car race, etc. And all devotees were surprised. Why Prabhupada is asking so much, talking so much to that car racing driver? Prabhupada asked, does car racers also have accidents? Then he said, yes, there are accidents. Some people have died also. Then Prabhupada started preaching, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi. You should understand these are the real problems, like that. Even LSD. Some people asked, why should we go to Vaikunta? So then Prabhupada said, that's a ocean of LSD. So then they immediately could connect. Oh, okay, we want to go there, like that. And Prabhupada used Vietnam War to preach how without God in the center, one can never stop wars, like that. And one other nice, very nice example I heard, Mayavadi businessman, his name was Mr. Mohta. He was arguing, I think God is impersonal. So Prabhupada gave this example to him. Mohata, what would you like? Would you like your money to be distributed in everybody's pockets, or do you want all your money to be in your pocket? So then he said, I want it to be in my pocket. So then Prabhupada said, if you want it to be distributed in every pocket, that is like all pervading Brahman. But if you want everything in a condensed fashion in your own pocket, that is like Bhagavan. So now you tell me which is more attractive, Brahman or Bhagavan? And immediately he understood that Bhagavan is more attractive, like that. Even when glass factory owner, Prabhupada asked, what do you make? He said, electronics or something like that. Where do you get the products? From sand. Did you create sand? Prabhupada would ask. He said, no. That means you're a thief. He said. Then he said, but Swamiji, I'm giving some donation to the temple. That means you're a small thief. You're still a thief because everything you're taking from God and you're trying to make money, like that. Prabhupada would say. And one other very nice example Prabhupada had quoted once to defeat few Mayavadi philosophers. Prabhupada was once showing his 5 fingers. He was asking, are these 5 fingers same or different? Everyone said different. And then he held on to the mic. And then they said, although they are different, now because they're all wanting to serve the hand in holding the mic, they're acting as one. That is what is oneness. Oneness means our identities are different, but the purpose or our desires are one with the actual person's desire, which is to speak in the mic, like that. So that way. Even one Christian preacher, Prabhupada quoted an example, how he got people interested to not go to hell. People were not bothered about hell at all. They would say, so what? Even if I be in hell, I don't mind, like that. So then he understood people are very much addicted to newspapers. So he started preaching, there are no newspapers in hell. Do you want to go to such a place? And all of them said, no, 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 we don't want to go. So this way, a devotee is very expert. He preaches uh, uh, in a very apt manner, connects to the person so that they eventually come closer to Krishna. And Krishna himself gives that intelligence to the devotee to the degree Krishna sees the sincerity of the person to serve. And therefore, the devotee does not become overly proud. He knows that these are all borrowed plumes. They are all coming from grace of Guru, Acharyas, Krishna, and therefore he never feels pride. So with this, I would like to conclude. Please forgive me if I spoke something beyond my realization, seeking everyone's blessing so that I also follow whatever we have spoken and discussed. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for bringing whatever sufferings we are going through in front of our eyes. Last 40 minutes. Like the way you started, how the merchant entering the forest to find some valuables, which, like anywhere, like everybody should have connected with all these things. So, and then how this forest is a material world and the merchant is like Jiva, and how we are, I mean, going through all these sufferings. And you mentioned the world is characterized by the envy. So fault finding, criticism, and blasphemy. You have given what is blasphemy, criticism, and all those things. Then give the example of like Ramchandra Puri blaspheming the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by seeing the ants, which is like blasphemy. Then how to get rid of envy? Then you mentioned that okay, better to speak to that devotee rather than talking about that devotee with others. So that is very nice example. And with the example of honeybee and the versus fly mentality, so nicely explained. Then rumors are like sounds and from invisible crickets or bees. So we always like are pained by the sounds of owls, just like the harsh words of enemies, these things. Then you mentioned about the taking the shelter of a tree with no fruits. So very nicely connected with the like taking the shelter of a rich man who has no heart, or taking the like legal problems also. So that guy thinks, okay, this guy is very foolish. So he tries to exploit. So how this is happening? Then you talked about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, like saying, we are clinging on to the Maya. Maya is not clinging to us. Like with the while talking about how a hungry man cling onto a pillar, cold pillar. Too. Then second one you mentioned about trying to row the boat with the anchor on. So this anchor is nothing but material world. Like when you talked about the spirituality, by having the material desires. Then a lot of happiness. So very nicely you mentioned that is it is happiness for hearing only, but nothing uh, in absolute sense. And Srimad Bhagavatam is for people who are free from enemies, Paramu Nirmucharana. Then we mentioned about the man enters the uh, metal world, like with the Srimad, that Mahabharata example. So how like to get some wood, like man entered this metal world, then how that these discs are attacking the form like deadly beasts, and then old women attacking from front old age, then five-headed snake, which are like panchaputas of this body, then dry well, which is like trying the sense gratification, then there are snakes down, so which are like, and we have six-faced elephant, which are like a five senses plus mind, then beasts, so how the problems that we are facing, and then every day like white and rat, sorry, white and dark rats, which you compared with the day and nights, and then at the end like we see, okay, small drops of honey, and by seeing that there is somebody who wants to save us, but we don't want to hold that rope because of thinking, okay, we'll miss this honey drops. So this is how like we are daily going through, but still like not able to realize that hope that devotee's mercy will be. Then how the like Vaishnavas are very merciful to Krishna consciousness. So depending on the ability of audience. So like we gave how the Narada Muni using the different examples. Like one example for Haris was 10,000 sons, then Mrugari, then preaching to Bharisat, Vedavas, and also Chitraket Maharaj, different analysis so that audience can get connected and then understand. Even Jadabartha, how he used the example of a forest to get connected to the Kigrahaguna. Then you mentioned about Sri Prabhupada also using many analogies to get connected. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. So somehow the Mahaprabhu says somehow or other get linked to that Krishna consciousness. So with the, like very nicely connected to everything. And in fact, you presented the picture of our sufferings in front of our eyes in this last part 5 minutes. Hare Krishna. Devotees have any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna, Prabhu.
That pronouns. Thank you. Thank you actually for the wonderful summary as well, because it covered everything. So thank you for the recap. And Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you for all the wonderful examples. I really felt very nice about,
Prabhu, thank you for the summary.
Yeah, it was condensed nectar summary.
So Prabhu, I mean, I just had one question. I mean, not question actually. So the point which really struck me more was with reference to the fault finding, how you define a fault finding versus blasphemy. That was really amazing. That was very, very nice. And you gave, how in different situation, time, place, situation, person, you can actually preach or you can convey the message differently to bring it to their understanding. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat pranams. So nice, so wonderful as usual, Prabhu. It's always nectarian to hear from you. There's one particular thing that struck me was how you brought out this aspect of the Shruti. I mean, we hear and then there is more pleasure in hearing or in the mind rather than the actual enjoyment of that particular object. So that was very thought-provoking, and then it was such an eye-opener for me, for all of us, I'm sure. Because like you rightly said, like say, let's say we have an intense desire for some item like a car or something. The job, I mean, that the thinking about it is what is most of the time it goes away. Then actually when you end up buying that vehicle or whatever, the actual joy that you experience is not so much, you know. So that's a very nice eye opener to help us understand our thought processes and what goes on in the mind and how it is all just the Shruti thing. So thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Anyway, it's so much of food you have given. Is it difficult to take it up? And very nice. One practical thing which you told about Prabhupada's story of the Srinathji. That's what practically it happens in our day-to-day life. The person they try to exploit us to know our weakness, and it's wonderful, Prabhu. I think I have to go through again your lecture. And especially the Mahabharata's analogy was wonderful, Prabhu.
I have to thank Shikshastakam Prabhu. I heard yesterday, as it is, I repeated from there.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thanks for the wonderful class, Prabhu. Prabhu, if I have to listen to your lecture again, to the Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya link, can somebody help me, Prabhu, so that I can lecture again?
I'll send it to you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
I just pasted in the chat that for today's link.
How to take it from the chat, Prabhu, to the mobile?
Yes, Mother, like if you're on mobile, like you can click on that link, it will open the YouTube, and then you can download that lecture. That option is there, or you can bookmark it.
If you want to listen to the older lectures also, Prabhu, how to get connected to the YouTube link, Prabhu? I'm not able to do it.
Yes.
Even I wanted to ask Prabhuji, previously, if we could hear that used to come there, now it's unlisted, I think, isn't it?
No, it's not unlisted, Babaji, because of some like access issues which got hacked by
Oh, okay.
ISB. So now most of the lectures are being posted to the ISKCON Cultural Center.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
You have to access it from the ISKCON Cultural Center.
Yes.
ICC, Prabhu?
correct, Mother.
Please help me, Prabhu. I'm not able to do that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Shall we end, Prabhuji, with Vaishnava pranams?
Yes, Prabhu.
वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। वैष्णव ठाकुर श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। हरे कृष्णा।
Thank you so much, Prabhu, once again. Thanks all devotees for being attentive. And again, we'll meet tomorrow at 7:15. Hare Krishna. Then rest of all.